You have something special to offer? Sure you do, and so does our guest, and he'll share his special something in just a moment.
Welcome to Something to Offer, the show that spotlights people living their dreams and making a difference. And now the host of our show, Anne-Marie Offer.
My guest is an international nutrition authority and the Vice President of International Sales for Golden Neolife Diamite. Dr. DLawson, that's a PhD doctor. Thank you for being here, Dr. Don. I was going to call you Dr. Lawson. Thank you so much.
And I'm very glad to be here
Great.
as well.
Off the bat, I wondered if when you were a child, like I know we had to eat liver because my dad had a vitamin B12 deficiency, so my folks made us eat liver, which I hated. Was there anything your parents made you eat for nutritional or health purposes that you recall as being odd or strange? And were they, based on your information now, were they on the right track with it?
Well, actually, my parents came up through a farm. And my dad moved to Long Beach, California during World War II, and so we didn't see the farm, but my parents still ate according to the farm diet. And I didn't have to eat anything, it's just what was on the table, and I was happy for it, and it looked like the right thing. It still does look like the right way to go.
That's good. I wondered if you could let us know, what is the most widely misused vitamin by the general public? You know how people hear things on the news and they go get this, go get that, get D, whatever, vitamin C, echinacea. What do people misuse the most?
Well, because people don't use supplementation well enough, I would say that the big tragedy is they don't use enough of any of the supplements. People that are eating even well are only aiming for RDA. Now, as far as if there is anything that would be used too much, there are no serious quantities of problems out there from using too much of hardly anything. There have been proven some toxicities in vitamin A and D, which are lipid-soluble vitamins, and iron and zinc and potassium for minerals. But still, the statistics on those items that can be harmful, there's very little harm being done. So it's not a major problem of negative, but there is a major problem of deficiency.
So a lot of underuse or no use.
That's the biggest harm, is underuse.
A lack of supplementation or whole foods in the right way to consume them and how they're processed through our body.
Yes.
We're going to take a moment for an offering, and when we return, I think you're going to be amazed, astounded at Dr. Lawson's life, how he was able to overcome a really tremendous obstacle through sheer faith, hope, whole foods, and he had a real powerhouse behind him, and you'll hear that story in just a moment.
Let us strive for the impossible. Remember, the great achievements throughout history have been the conquest of what seemed the impossible. Charlie Chaplin.
We're back with Dr. Don Lawson, and I'm going to call you Don now
Yes,
for a while, if
please
that's
do.
okay. So Dr. Don, and all this is too much, and when I get in the name of the company, it even gets GNLD, it gets to be a little much for me. But your story is, very amazing. Nobody could write a screenplay or a film, a book, anything that would compare to what happened to you. It's very dramatic, and I'm just going to set it up, and I hope you'll explain it, and then we'll take it to how that obstacle was turned into a really positive, and how all this came out of it for you and then for other people. Several years ago, you were diagnosed with polio, and you were completely paralyzed, or predominantly paralyzed, from the waist down?
From the neck down.
Neck down. And I'm going to let you tell the story, how that happened, what happened, and how we'll move from there to here.
The story can get quite lengthy. I'll let you edit out what you want to edit out. Of course, I had a very happy younger life. I was very stable in my family and in our church, and that's where I met my wife Carol, is in Sunday school at age 8.
Oh, wow.
And this is part of the stabilizing between our marriage, was our unity and our belief in our common goals for life.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I did pursue sports, and just before I graduated from high school and got so sick with polio, I was actually the athlete of the year. I was the fastest runner in the conference for track.
Wow.
I had 8 of our school records for track. I set the conference record for scoring touchdowns in our football, which was 7 touchdowns in 1 game.
Wow.
And so I was really going strong. So when I was knocked completely down into the iron lung and on braces, the extreme difference was a big extreme difference. Now, of course, the process goes that my wife and I did fall in love, and love is so fantastic. And we got married at age 18, and it was a little young. It really was. And so it's something that you have to adjust to if you get married that young. But it was important for me because 3 months later I was stricken with polio. We fought the fever and the sickness at home, not knowing what it was, for about 5 days. I had turned purple above my knees, and when I got to the hospital, the doctor said the oxygen deprivation would have hit my brain. In about 2 more hours I would have died.
Oh, my God.
Just in time. So they cut a big hole in my throat called a tracheotomy, and they put the pipe down into my lungs, and they put me inside the iron lung. And I never could breathe another breath by myself. The machine did all my breathing for me. Later I was transferred off into rocking beds, into chest respirators, and various other pumps and tubes, and just the breathing alone was a major trauma and a major disaster. Then, of course, I lost the ability to swallow. They had to put a tube in my stomach, and they fed me liquid pressurized meals. Then, as time went by, I started shrinking, and my body was twisting. So they hooked braces on my hips up to my shoulders and kept my back straight, braces down my arms, and rubber bands to hold my arms buoyant, and rubber bands to make my fingers move. And with all these straps and braces and rubber bands, I was just a disaster.
Right, and you were like that for 10 years? You were in the iron lung? And
I did go home, and I got into other equipment, like rocking beds and respirators instead of the iron lung.
I mean, the doctors really didn't give you a nice or positive prognosis in any way. And somehow I wondered if you were buying into it at all and losing hope, because your wife was kind of like the one who said, I'm going to take you home and I'm going to make you well. And they thought she was crazy, right?
Right.
And
Orthodox medicine has their standard, of course, and they have their psychologists, and they did a interview with me to see if I was psychologically ready to even be released from the hospital. And in my interview, I was more worried about how my family would adjust to the problem at home instead of how I would. And they released me immediately. So psychologically, I was ready to go, even though I wasn't physically ready to do anything. And so there were some problems there. But the key was our faith. And of course, everybody that's listening, I'm sure, believes strongly in your own personal faith. And we, Carol and I, prayed together, and we knew that life was going to change and there would be some good come out of it. We didn't know it was going to take 10 years for the change to happen. I mean, miracles do happen, but 10
not
years?
always in our time.
Sometimes not in our time.
Right.
And so we have to believe that all things are working together for good, even if it is an eternal value instead of now. But we got some now things happen.
Right. And when I said in our time, I didn't mean like in some others. I meant, you know, some people want it now, want their change immediately, but you have to keep persevering and never have a never give up spirit, which I think is what
That's right.
you and your wife definitely had. So what did she do? I mean, she...
Well, she had to do everything. At first, when she took me home, she had to literally lay me down in the bathtub and bathe me and dress me and feed me and shave me and comb my hair and do literally everything. I mean, it was a total care program. And then we went on welfare. California, they pay okay, but not enough to ever do anything in life. You never own anything, of course. And then they sent us food stamps, and we lived on food stamps for 10 years. And we knew what poverty was. A lot of our friends had been broke once or twice in their life, but broke and poverty are actually different. We were in poverty for 10 years. So we were very happy to see the change come when our prayers were answered, and the nutrition changed my body so dramatically, and the business that we started grew so dramatically, and we started making lots and lots of money, and that's pretty nice to make lots of money.
It is great. Who became aware first? Did your wife Carol say, let's try some supplementation, whole food supplementation? How did you figure out the process and what you needed to use, and then eventually you decided to specialize in nutrition in this area yourself? So I wondered if you could talk about how you found it for yourself, your recovery, because your recovery is really based on that, and then when in that process you decided to become a healer and have that mission for other
Yes,
people.
and finding that you need supplementation is actually a major chore, because the orthodox medical program out there and the dietitians, and I should say, as I maybe make a critical comment about the dietitians, that I am a licensed dietitian, so I'm criticizing myself here at the same time. I wouldn't want to criticize somebody else that I didn't know a little bit about.
Right.
Since I am a dietitian, licensed in New York, by the way, that gives me a chance to say what is being said by the medical profession and even the dietitians, and that is they say eat well, just eat according to the pyramid food chart, which is 6 to 11 servings of grains a day and 2 to 4 servings of fruits a day, 1 being citrus, and 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day, 1 being cruciferous, and they say eat well. They don't say take supplements at all. So finding supplementation has to be a venture that comes about. And so we thought we were eating well. We thought we were eating as good as anybody. Everything we fixed tasted good. That's the measurement, you know. And so finally, when Carol went to a distributorship meeting for the type of marketing that is famous being called multi-level marketing, and she went through this meeting, 2 miracles happened that evening. The one was when they drew the opportunity on the board. They drew circles, which represented people. Then they connected the circles with lines, and this meant a team. And the concept to the network marketing is team. Nobody works real hard, but you add the volume up, and the volume makes a pretty nice little bonus check. So Carol said, I can do that. And then that night they talked on one product, just vitamin E. Now vitamin E happened to be the answer for me and my muscles and my polio, and I still believe for most anybody that may be listening to this that as a friend with polio or the post-polio syndrome people, the vitamin E is the answer. I suffered a little kind of a setback a few years ago. I was feeling it, and I started with extra E, and it just disappeared and has held me very, very strong. So anybody that's worried about post-polio syndrome, I recommend extra vitamin E. So they told about the vitamin E that night, and Carol brought that home to me because I was still totally handicapped, and that was 10 years after my onset of polio. And the E just immediately made my heart pounding harder, my circulation improved. I could hear my heart pounding beside my ear. Now, some people would think that that was my carotid artery plugged up, but the circulation was just improving. I turned a flush red, which was quite interesting, and everything changed in my life. I literally had major, major improvement from just vitamin E. Now today I take everything, and when I say everything, I take so much that most people will turn us off if I tell how much I take today. I put so much in my cereal bowl in the morning, there's no room for cereal. But I wouldn't take one thing less, I guarantee that.
Not to be where you are from where you were. So how long, Don, did it really take to, become mobile again and be able to move your body and, have a life like other people have?
Well, this is where it comes to, you think of a miracle now instead of normal health, normal healing. And that is when I started on the vitamin E and got into some E therapy, not just normal RDA, but seriously into some extra E. It was 3 weeks that my vital capacity went from 24% to 72%.
That's
So when you have something like that happen in 3 weeks, you know something major. I stopped wearing the braces at that time, and of course I did need some therapy. You're physically dysfunctional at that point in certain areas, so with some therapy, stopping the braces, my breathing on my own with a good strong 72% breathing rate, and my whole life made a horrendous change quickly.
Wow, amazing. At one point in this process, because I've heard stories too about how when you did decide to choose this as a mission, I choose to call it a mission because it really is a mission. I mean, when you went to take exams and things, you had to do them orally because you could not write with your hands. When did you say, I want to do this as a career or as a vocation or, as we said, a mission? And what was that process like to become so well versed and well known in this area and to become what eventually you're a nutritional consultant along with your vice presidency in GNLD? So
obviously you have to start with something that has high enthusiasm and high interest for you to be able to have your retention up, because you have to be concentrating. And yes, in my first years of college, I was not able to write any notes. I had to listen, and then I couldn't write the exam, so I had to sit beside the professor and answer oral questions. Well, when you answer oral questions, you have to actually know what you're talking about. not guess at true and false.
Right, no.
You have to know what you're doing. And I was happy to go all the way through and graduate from college with an A- average, which I was very, very happy about. And so I got into practicing memory and have practiced photographic memory and instant recall, and it's just been wonderful. And so I have gotten into learning as much as I can about supplementation, and it's become a very big field. In the beginning days, all you had to know was A, B, C, D, E. That's about all you had to know. Now, when you get into the carotenoids, for example, which started with beta-carotene, which was one item, they now have discovered 600 of the different carotenoids.
Oh,
and each of
amazing.
them have their own name. And back 70 years ago, they discovered the first flavonoid called bioflavonoid
Right.
in the citrus pulp under the citrus peeling. Now they've discovered 4,000, and each has its own name.
And I love to eat that stuff. I gotta tell you, I love
Yeah,
the
it is
oranges.
good.
I love
Yes,
that.
yes.
But
Marmalade, I love it. But the subject is becoming very big now. Now they have what they call phytonutrients, whole food phytonutrient categories, and they now have what's called food factors and food compounds that are not vitamins or minerals or proteins, but they're in food too, and there's a lot of value to each of these components, and it has turned into a big, major, degreed required program to know what you're doing now.
when you got through school and got your degree, what did you do? How did you start your work?
Well, this was in the process at the time that my wife, who is not only my partner, I say she's the boss too, and I know there's a lot of jokes always been done about the men saying that. You hear it all the time. Oh, she's my boss too, but she started.
Is she the CEO of your
well,
company?
it's more than that. She started the business when I was still homesick, and she signed the application in her name, and the business is in her name, and it's all her money, and so I just get to live with Carol and her money, and so I'm not really even her partner. I help her a lot, but it's all hers, and so she is the boss for sure, and it's fun to have a nice boss.
So how did you come to GNLD, both of you, in terms of, I know you were involved in other companies, and then how did you choose this one? I know this one, and then I'd like to talk about, probably take a little offering, but I'd like to talk about what is so special about GNLD that's different than other
I feel I can
companies.
real clearly share why GNLD is the best in the world today because of my experience and the education background, but my experience with another company, which is where we built our distributorship very largely, made our first $1 million in another company, and then we broke off into owning our own company, and we owned our own company for 4.5 years. I put 165,000 people into our computer system in 4.5 years.
Wow.
And we had a real going thing. We did $40 million volume that last year, then the bubble popped and it went broke, and you know, some companies do, and ours did. And in that experience, I was always bumping up against this wonderful company that had the most sensational products, and we just couldn't stand up to what they were doing, so we never mentioned them while we were growing and building. But finally, when I was available after our company went bankrupt, I was available to take an interview with them, and I was very privileged to be hired straight in as a vice president with the company with the products that I had admired when they were a competitor.
Your work with the company, I think this is fascinating. I want to talk more specifically about the company, but just to show people how far one can go in this field with this company, has taken you to many places, and places that people have risked their lives in to bring, you know, these whole food supplementations and to help people. Specifically, I know about South Africa a little bit, so maybe you could share.
That's fun as well. Of course, we've traveled a certain amount on our own before, but when we started with GNLD, they're now in over 50 markets. They, of course, are the second largest in the world in markets that we're in our industry, the fastest growing one to get that far. And because of that, my wife and I travel together, and so we have little honeymoons or mini vacations. We either go a few days early or stay a few days late, literally all over the world. So we've done more in South Africa and Africa than most of the natives there. We've seen all the safaris and all the gold mines and diamond mines and waterfalls, and we've had a great time. In each country, we can say that we've done all the special things that you do.
We're going to take a moment for an offering, and when we return, Don will share the power of Golden Neo Life Diamite and how it can change your life and how it can really help the world and the community at large. So I'm sure you're not going to want to miss that. We'll see you in just a moment.
Health is number one. You can't have a good offense, good defense, good education, or anything if you don't have good health. Sarah McClendon.
We're back and ready to uncover the way to optimum health. Explain the mission of GNLD. It's a really successful 30-year strong company. And what is, if someone were to ask you the mission, purpose, or the statement of purpose of GNLD, what would that be?
Well, the mission statement is making a positive difference in people's lives. There's two concepts to the company, which I'm going to feature product, of course, in my lectures. The first is we are the world's opportunity company, and we are a business that changes people's financial life. But then in product, we are simply the best in product. And when I get into that, there's three categories of supplementation that you can purchase. The first category are the synthetics. They started about 70 years ago. They were the ones where they had to take the carbon molecule out of the food so that it would be stable, so they could actually do studies on a nutrient so that it didn't go into biodegradable rot. And they became the stable ones that were being sold at first. They didn't know what was wrong with synthetics. Today they know what's wrong with synthetics, and that is they have low bioavailability, they can be toxic, they are harmful, and so you lose your money's value, and this is where the toxicity problems come from.
They're not processed well through the body,
Right,
correct?
because they're synthetic. In fact, one of the greatest authorities in the world, Dr. Arthur First, who is a toxicologist, he says that synthetic amino acids do not get recognized by your enzymes at all, and they're discarded as 100% waste. Well, you can't get lower bioavailability than zero. And most of the people in the marketplace put a synthetic amino acid in their protein drink mixes. You'll see it in the ingredient section. It has a chemistry signet DL. Whenever you see DL, this is the chemist complying with you according to truth and labeling laws, saying this product is synthetic. Most people don't know that about the DL.
So in point, you'd be better off drinking water, which is really great for you, than to put that in you probably.
Well, right, you're doing harm instead of good.
Right.
So the synthetics have a serious, serious problem. In fact, the one synthetic that failed was the synthetic beta-carotene. For about 30 years, organic beta-carotene did a real good job, had several good studies. And then there's a company that got the monopoly on beta-carotene, made it synthetic, and in the Finland smoker study a couple years ago, it failed. In fact, the people that took the placebo ended up having better health than the ones with beta-carotene. Then in another study that was done with the carotenoid complex that GNLD sells, the beta-carotene, the synthetic source, was in that study as well. And it failed again. Synthetic beta-carotene is a disaster. Organic beta-carotene is wonderful, but the synthetic component makes it undigestible and toxic and some serious problems. Now the second category that we have to be careful with is the health food store products, which we normally think of, oh, the health food store, they're organic and natural, and we should be proud of their philosophy, and we are. We think the philosophy of organic natural is wonderful. I give the health food stores much, much credit. But they started to process their products before they had enough understanding, and they started making isolates, high-potency isolates. And so they started to isolate out vitamin A, recommend 300,000 units a day. Now, even though it was organic, they've proven that to be toxic to the liver. They've proven it to cause birth defects. They've also established that it takes like 15 other nutrients to bond to A to metabolize it correctly. And if you take 300,000 units a day, you'll get all the A you want, but you can end up being deficient in 15 other nutrients, and you upset your body chemistry. So synthetics are the wrong way to go. High potency isolates are the wrong way to go. The way to go that's correct is whole food supplements, and it happens to be that GNLD is the only whole food supplement manufacturer on the market today. Now, to explain whole food, like I said, the subject of nutrition has become a college degree, not just a college class. And in this short interview, there's not really time to develop it in total. But there's many other ways to express the difference in whole food. Shall I take time to do one?
Why don't you do one? That would be
Okay,
great.
then you can edit out whatever you don't want. Vitamin E. Vitamin E is considered one entity by most people. Well, vitamin E should have been called E complex because there are 8 E's. Most people don't know there are 8 E's. The one that everybody sells in the marketplace today is called alpha tocopherol. And now some of the people in the marketplace sell this alpha tocopherol as a synthetic, and the label will say DL alpha tocopherol.
I'm going to start looking for that DL all the time.
Do not use DL. Whenever you see DL, put it down. It's usually the cheapest. So you go down the list and you find the cheapest product on the shelf. And most people think when they find the cheapest product on the shelf that that's the one that's the bargain. They really do. Most people think cheap means bargain. It doesn't. It means
They're cheating themselves.
It's cheap in both senses. They're cheating themselves. They moved into synthetics and isolates. And so DL alpha tocopherol is a disaster, and alpha tocopherol by itself is not good. There are many scientific studies now that have established you need to take the gamma tocopherol with the alpha tocopherol to do it correctly. There are 4 tocopherols, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Hardly anybody in the world has put these tocopherols together, except for GNLD. And then there are 4 other E's that hardly anybody knows the names because nobody says these names. The reason they don't is because they don't sell them. And why would they tell you about something they don't sell? You might want them and they don't sell them, and so they don't. But there's 4 also that are called tocotrienols. The 4 tocotrienols are also alpha, beta, gamma, delta. The alpha tocotrienol is 60 times more powerful than the alpha tocopherol, the one everybody sells. And we, GNLD, are the only company in the entire world that has gone to the trouble to add all 4 tocotrienols, extra alpha tocotrienol, all 4 tocopherols, the gamma with the alpha, no synthetic DLs, no chemicals, no poisons, no preservatives. By far the absolute best vitamin E that can be bought anywhere in the world. Nobody else has it. Exclusive GNLD.
So you have tremendous people working in the company in terms of developing things. How do they, I mean, nobody else is doing it. GNLD's doing it. These are like groundbreaking kind of people, or they just want to see things be done correctly. I'm not sure what is the motivational, you know what I mean? Like they want people to have maximum health.
It does make you ask that question, and the question has an answer in the term of ethic, and it has a term in goals as well. Obviously, the competitors to GNLD in the entire industry of nutrition, which is supposed to be a respected industry, they're actually in the business for a profit margin first, and they're more interested in the dollar that you are giving them than what you are receiving for health. They prove it by selling you synthetics and isolates. They prove it. We are the only company that I know of that feel that the formula should be according to the blueprint of nature. We're getting as close to nature as we can get. Everybody else is going as far away from nature as they can get it. They prove it by isolating the factor out to an intrinsic factor, which is wrong, and then trying to make it synthetic, which is double wrong. And that's the direction they're going. The reason we do not have a competitor in the entire industry is nobody else is going in our direction or the correct direction, the direction of nature.
Right.
They say they are, but they
Aside from your wife, who was tremendous support, was there ever anyone who really encouraged you or was a mentor to you?
Well, obviously we have to put my wife on top of the list, but people that have floated through, and you always have to start with mother. I mean, you can't leave mother out. My mother was a spiritual giant in my life, and as I went through different stages of my life, and I did decide to go to seminary along with my other education. I've had my Greek and Hebrew and my pastoral theology, and I have a master's in theology as well.
That's right, I forgot to mention
I'm
that.
excited about, and there were professors and special people there in my spiritual life as well. And coming clear around to GNLD, I have to say that Mr. Jerry Brassfield, the founder of our company, is a wealthy man and a great person and a believer as well. And I just think that he is probably today's mentor.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for being with us. Make sure you go out and take care of your life in all the ways that Dr. Lawson has spoke about today. Go after your dream and make sure you stay focused, and we'll see you next week.